Hey friend, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and this is Create Your Own Cozy. In this week's video, I'm using one of the new winter IOD release stamps called Autumn Blessings, and I had a really good time using this. And then I also paired it with the one from, I believe, a couple years ago called Fruitful Harvest, just to add some more stuff. If you want to see what I come up with, stick around.
Whether you have the release from a couple years ago or got this new Autumn Blessings or are in the market to get it, I hope you guys get inspired today to do some stamping. You can see from my past, you see how I didn't properly get this cutting board sealed and some oils came back through. Well, I decided to go ahead and repurpose it. Listen, that bird with the pastiche stamp was beautiful. It just shouldn't be sold with oil stains coming through. So let's go over this whole thing. I'm using the Lantern Milk Paint from last week's video from Sweet Pickins Milk Paint. You will notice that a lot of things are painted black in this week's video today because last week I painted all 6 of the bases at the same time to try to save me time and add some margin to my life. And boy, does it feel good to kind of be ahead and just start with the creative part this week. So I'm using a heat gun to try to get some crackle and then flipping it over and doing the same thing on the other side. Since this thrifted cutting board is known to have some oils in it, I am just going with it and knowing that there will be some crackle and some peeling, and I am okay with it. So I'm using a 220 grit sandpaper to kind of get off all the extra pieces, and then after that I am going to seal it with Sweet Pickins top coat in the matte sheen. Now I'm going to be using IOD's permanent ink in the color white for this, and I wanted to seal it first. I mean, it's permanent, but if you make a mistake and you have a baby wipe, you can wipe most of it off right away if you make a mistake. So that's why I wanted to seal it first to give me a little bit of room for error, because you guys know I like to make mistakes here. But don't worry, I usually show you how to fix them. I'm determined enough to want to show you how to work through the problems because I feel like that's where a lot of the creativity comes out. Now, when you get a new stamp, just the first time you use it, you do need to season it by taking some 220 grit sandpaper over the back and just going in both directions one time. It allows for a little bit of grit to show up on the back of the stamp to hold your ink a lot better. So the first thing that I'm going to do is lay out how I want it to look, and then I am going to place the pumpkin that I want in the front of my picture. That one is going to be stamped first because that one will be in the foreground and you will show the entire pumpkin of the one that is closest to you. So I'm using the IOD ink pad, white ink. I am turning it over, using a thin mount on the top as well to have control over the straightness and the whole pumpkin, and then I just pull it straight up. Now after that is dry, I did have to wait for the ink to dry a bit. You'll see that I have the mask for the pumpkin I've already stamped. You put the mask over your stamp, and right here I got a little confused. Why do I have the mask in the back when that should be completely covered? But don't worry, I figured it out. I put number 2 on, and the one I've already stamped is covered, but the one I haven't stamped is also covered. And watch what happens. This doesn't make sense. So I fix it and I put the mask back on the one that was already stamped, and I very carefully hover and just do the imprint over the areas that I masked in error. You'll see when the mask comes off that it looks like it's behind the pumpkin. So let's try this again. Now we put masks over all the stamped items, and then we're going to put the one in the back so that it can look like it's behind. And most of the newer stamps that IOD is coming out with has these masks included, which has been really nice to be able to layer your projects. So I'm just going to hover. I'm going to put it down. Always have one hand on your stamp. A lot of people like tickle the whole stamp, and look at that. Now you will see I like to live life on the edge. There's some spots that didn't quite indent. I like to hover and then press down again. I probably should have done a better job first time around, but I like to live life on the edge a little bit, and I am really happy with this one. If you guys are new here, welcome to Create Your Own Cozy. I would love it if you hit subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and let me know you are here. Project number 2 is a very simple one. I got some clementines a while back, and they came in this little wooden crate, and there's nothing vintage about it. So I decided to it's raw wood. I added some water to the wood, and then just use this milk paint over the top of it. And honestly, it only required one coat in all the areas. I did a second coat over the colors so you couldn't see those again. And I just covered this up with milk paint, and I started thinking, like, if you went to the grocery store and got this every time you got clementines, you could save like 5 or 6 of them. It would take me 5 or 6 weeks because we go through a bag a week. And you could use this for some pretty cool storage in your pantry. Right here, I am using this beautiful swag label type thing. I don't even know what to call it. But wanted to, just think, you could put potatoes on here and keep your potatoes and something really cool. I might be working on something like that in my future. But right now I am just using some components of the same stamp sheet, and then I'm going to use Apothecary labels. I'm going to spell out the word harvest. They weren't quite sticking as well as I would like to the thin mount. I feel like there's some tips and tricks out there that you guys know about ways to get these little letters to stick if they have been used a lot. If you guys have any suggestions, please let me know in the comments below and we can share it with the community. So I ended up just doing it like one by one. I went from each side. I already knew the spacing, so I just went one by one, and that also worked. For project number 3, I had a Melissa and Doug wooden box that was used from one of my kids' little craft kits or something like that. Originally, I painted it with some pink when I had it on a paintbrush, but I covered it with lantern and then sealed it, and was thinking that I just use the back of this as a blank. The first thing I'm going to do is stamp with IOD ink in the color white, and I'm building the same way I did on the first project. But this time I am going to add paint to the mix. So I am going to stamp what I want my picture to look like, and then I'm going to come in with some DIY paint over the stamp, and it doesn't have to be neat or perfect. It's just an idea of the colors that you want, and then I will come back over it with black ink and stamp, hover over the painted space and stamp again. I'm going to let you watch a little bit, and I will check back in a few minutes. You can see that I have been having fun with playing with colors. The DIY paint colors can be reactivated with water and blended, so if the paint was drying out, I could just use a spray mister. But after I'm happy with how this looks, I'm taking some black permanent ink, hovering the stamp over the top and doing it in the same order I did it before, and you will see I like this better than using a stencil and painting in a stencil. I just think this is such a fun way to make artwork. You'll see here I am again playing with fire. I do a little hovering and try to get that open mark next to the stamp. And listen, it's just paint, right? You could always do it again. That is the fun part. Now, I thought it needed 2 more elements. So this particular pumpkin is from the Autumn Harvest, which I believe was 2 releases ago. And then the item I add in the bottom corner is from this current release. Now, I didn't have any DIY paint in the color Cake Batter left, but I had this yellow from Fusion Paint. I do not sell Fusion Paint, but I will have a link to the color that pretty much matches it in the DIY paint line in the description below. Now, I didn't start this project with an end in mind, but because of the wood curling over here on the side, I thought it needed a border. So I used air dry clay. I used the Trimmings 1 mold at first, but then decided I did not like it. So before I glue it down, I am just putting the clay back together and then using this rope type 1 from the Trimmings mold. Using some, actually I believe I used wood glue to get this to attach because it is attaching to wood. And then before it was dry, I covered it in some DIY black paint to try to minimize the amount of cracks in the clay while drying. If you go ahead and paint the clay while the clay is still wet, it slows the drying time down, which minimizes your cracks. Now I'm using DIY's Golden Ticket, which is a liquid patina with a golden hue. I'm very glad that I did not use wax at this point. I really did not know what I wanted this to look like and thought gold was what I wanted. So I went over the molds and the exterior of this to make it look like a gold frame. Now, hindsight, I didn't like it, but I'm going with it and seeing if I can live with it or what I want to do to change it. And quite honestly, I was not liking the jet black background either. So right here, I'm taking some DIY's liquid patina and I'm sealing in all of the pumpkins that I painted. That way, if I do anything to the background and I don't like it, it can be wiped back because these stamped, beautiful parts that I like are done and they are sealed in now. Then I just start playing with some faded burlap in the background and trying to wet distress it a little bit, trying to do a little bit of a dry brush, but then wet distressing it so there's a texture in the background instead of it just being flat. After sleeping on it, I decided I still didn't like the gold, so I'm going to go over this with faded burlap. I'm not going to go in all the nooks and crannies so that the layers can kind of show through, but the second I start putting faded burlap on there, I was like, oh my gosh, I like this so much better. So this is just your sign to keep pushing through. Like if something's really bothering you, just take the risk and do the next step just in case you like it so much better. If you like the gold, you can totally stop at that step. And in fact, hindsight, I didn't need to do that step, but it was part of the process of me figuring out what I actually like and don't like. So I sealed the faded burlap and with some clear wax, and then went over the whole thing with white wax, wiped it back, and then used clear wax as an eraser for lots of little layers. And I am happy with this project. It was a good amount of creative therapy, and I highly suggest it.
So I hope you had fun creating with me a little bit today with some fall projects. I believe I'm ready for the fall mood. I know that the stuff in my stores, anything fall or Halloween, has been selling. So what am I waiting for? So sometimes it's hard when you're still like feeling like summer to get into a new season, but that is the struggle of a maker. And honestly, I started looking at stuff and I'm like, is it too soon to decorate my house for fall? Maybe that would help. So let me know in the comments below, when do you guys normally decorate for fall in your house? I grew up in Orlando, Florida. There wasn't a fall to be seen. So since living in Georgia, I do enjoy the fall season with the colors that just come out. They're beautiful. So let me know if you had a favorite project today. I hope that you got inspired with, especially with the stamp paint stamp technique. There are so many options. In fact, I'm thinking about those nutcracker. How cool would these little nutcrackers be with this technique? That could be something that could be fun to do too. If you are new here, please consider subscribing, hitting your notification bell to all so you get updated every time I upload a new video. Don't forget to leave me a comment and let me know you are here. If you have any people that you would like to share this channel with, that is also super helpful. And as always, all the paint and products are on my website at createyourowncozy.com. I do a little dance when the orders come in because you're helping support my small business. Guys, I am so thankful for you. I hope you enjoy and create something that feeds your creative soul. See you in the next video.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check me out over at createyourowncozy.com.